What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Go Lead Everything podcast. Great guest today, Phan, a real estate mogul, realtor extraordinaire, founder of Trust Real Estate. Spent 14 years in mortgage banking. Super knowledgeable guy. Got great insights. I'm thrilled to have him on the show today. And my realtor, of course, Phan. What's up, Chris?
Thanks, man. I should have that. I should have you say that intro every time I meet clients.
Just have it on recording.
Tell me a little bit about yourself. Philip, you want to take this one?
Take it away. I just show up with a microphone. Well, Phan is the man. Great to have you on the show. It's been fun. We've been talking a lot lately, given the market here in Houston. And but let's start out. Tell us a little bit about your story, Chris. I know I mentioned 14 years in mortgage banking. How did we get to where you are today? Just recently founding Trust Real Estate.
Oh man, what a journey. I guess I'll start it where it all began. I guess my mom always wanted me to go into business. She wasn't the one that said, hey, you need to really go to school and get a degree and find a job. She was more along the son, I'm going to teach you how to run a business and you take it from there. And so at 21, she loaned me $90,000 and I opened up a liquor store. I don't know if this is a good idea or not. At the tender age of 21.
Wow.
And she taught me about inventory, when to order, profit margins, all these things that came in line. To me, at such a young age, I really noticed like how to create a business or what that kind of what the mindset of being a business owner took and how much work and dedication that was. I mean, we used to run at 10 o'clock in the morning to 9 o'clock at night and it'd just be myself,
Wow. Man, you're like Gary V running the liquor store.
What I didn't like about it was, so after that, I started learning how to cut prices, where to get, what times to buy, to what people were purchasing to kind of make a profit out of it and kind of get a leg up on things. But what I didn't like about it was the long hours, obviously. And then, the fact that I didn't feel good about what I was selling. I was selling something that was what I felt. Yeah, there's people who drink casually, but then there's people who are really addicted, and I didn't want to help that cause.
Yeah.
And so in the fourth or fifth year, I remember telling my mom, by that time I paid the store off in the third year, and we bought it at the time for 90. We ended up selling it, I want to say was close to 160, 170. Nice. And when I first walked in, I think we were running at like a 16% margin. When I left, we ran it at like a 32%, very, very high. And a buddy of mine said, hey, you may want to take a shot at trading currency, and he showed me the Forex market. I traded for a Wall Street based company. And it was 3 years of my life that I think changed the scope of everything, how I did business, how to face your fears. But the hours were so long is because you could only really sleep at like, I want to say it was 1 to 4 o'clock in the morning, because then you go into like, you're wrapping up into, you're going into the European market, then the US equities, going into Japanese. I mean, it was, and if you ever got stuck in a position, then you'd have to hedge yourself out. So at that time, somebody said, hey man, I said, I make great money, but I want my quality of life to change. And he said, why don't you should look into mortgages. And that's where, fast forward, I learned the mortgage biz. And I was taught by two great individuals that really understood what financing was about. At the time, condominiums were one of the hardest things to finance. And I specialized in that. I work with guys, companies like Trammell Crow, Post Properties, Caspian Homes they had about 15 to 20 million in condominiums in downtown. I represented all those guys as their preferred lender.
Oh, wow.
And so working with buyers, I started to see it in a different light about how they were positioning their strategies into, what am I putting down? What's my down payment? Should I put 20% or should I put 5%? And so Chris Newdy, who is I believe now he's still like the top 1% originator in the nation. I worked for him, and he taught me about cost-effective borrowing, and that kind of changed the whole scope of how I looked at mortgages. It wasn't this one size fits all. You come in there and you put a guy in a 30-year or 15-year. You're really trying to figure out how long he's going to be there, what his goals are. Is he going to end up renting the property, or is he going to sell it? So that helped me kind of structure everything to where it really benefited the buyer.
Yeah, and when we met, Eunice and I were looking for a place, and I remember Eunice and I were definitely renting as of January 1, 2018. we were just getting ready to get married, and we were like, hell yeah, we're gonna go get an apartment, or rent a townhouse. We were gonna rent like 2 or 3 bedroom townhouse. And
yeah,
Chris is like, okay, what's your budget? And we told him, and he's just like, why are you renting? y'all need to buy. And we were like, I don't know, we're gonna be paying for a wedding and all this stuff. And he's like, let me crunch some numbers for you. And man, within 2 weeks we were under contract on a house.
How crazy
our
is
first
that
house.
right
It was
now?
wild, absolutely wild. But
if my memory serves me right, you're actually lower than what you were paying in rent after your interest and your deductions. I mean, your deductions and your homestead. That's why I was like, why are you guys renting?
oh yeah, for the place we got.
Yeah.
We would have had a way less nice place for the same amount in rent as our mortgage payment.
Yeah. And fast forward till now, right? We're about to positive cash flow this thing.
There you go.
I mean, how crazy is that?
It's crazy, man. And that was the long-term plan. It happened a little sooner than we expected, but it's all good, man. So tell us a little bit about life as a single dad. I mean, you're a business owner, right? You just started Trust. How do we get to, from that mortgage time to Trust, I guess, first, before we get off the topic?
Wow. So, as I built my career in mortgage banking, I ended up becoming a preferred lender also to Remax office that was in the Galleria, and I trained over 60 agents. One of the things I realized that there was such a lack of is that agents always shied away from numbers, right? So their typical thing was, go talk to my lender, go talk to my lender, right? They couldn't answer those questions or figure things, or majority of them. And granted, there are also agents that really understand this process, but few more than many. Then 2008 hit, the market fell, and I just remember Dodd-Frank came in, and we used to make like 2.5%, 2%, close to what a realtor made in the business. And I remember doing this deal with an agent, and I am even surprised how he could even facilitate a $500,000 deal. That was not the sharpest tool in the shed, if you will. And I remember, looking at the settlement statement, and I remember saw his commission was like $15,000. And I looked over at mine, it was like 4,500, 5,000. I was like, what am I doing? What is wrong with me? I could run circles around this guy,
Oh, man.
So that took me on the path of real estate. And that's when I decided, there's a void in this market that I know consumers need. They need somebody who can understand these numbers, and you're probably one of my biggest testimonials as to why,
Yeah, for sure, man. It's been awesome learning from you and kind of going on this journey together.
Yeah.
Super cool new company, Trust.
Yeah.
What's the story there?
So Trust, I opened Trust because I wanted to be a company that was more of, the biggest things with us as agents, we get such a bad rap because the 80% of us, I mean, let's be very honest, the 80% of us don't represent us well. There's the 20% that are true professionals. They do it full time. We are constantly trying to improve and looking at new ways to, help the consumer or help our clients. And there's the other ones that just, you can just go to a school, get your real estate license. I've always said this, anybody can become a realtor. or get a real estate license, but very few can perform real estate at a high level.
Mm-hmm.
You know? And I think we get that, we have that connotation that we're just in it for the commission, because there are, majority are like, oh, buy this house. Oh yeah, it's perfect. Oh, yeah. Who cares if it's next to a man-made ditch? It'll be fine.
Man. No, I think you're exactly right. And I think that goes to any industry, right? Like if there's a small percentage of people that really are going to excel at just about anything. And, I see people in other business models, and there's folks out there that'll just give it a bad name. Right. And so many people have these perceptions of these industries, and it's really built on no knowledge of the industry at all. It's just built on an experience they had with one person.
Exactly.
Or one piece of information.
Totally agree.
Yeah. So good transition. You mentioned, 2008.
Yeah.
What are we looking like now versus 2008 in the real estate market?
As crazy as it sounds, and I've said this 3-4 months ago, 2008, or a couple of months ago, I'm sorry, as Corona was coming down, and it was really affecting, here's the thing, there's never been a pandemic that has affected everyone globally. I'm talking about, it's not just within our domestic reach, it's everywhere.
Right.
And, to slow the economy, to, put a wrench in things, I think nobody has ever expected that. I mean, there's the magnitude of what's going on will change the landscape of the way we do a lot of things, working from an office, how we meet each other, things like that. I think are going to have very long lasting effects. Right. The first thing I hear all the time is, are we in the same situation as 2008? The reality of it is we're not. We're actually probably in one of the best positions that we are. And it sounds crazy to say that, but I have numbers to prove it, right? So, the first thing we got to look at is in 2008, so many bad mortgages were written. I think 152 billion was the number in mortgages that was written. The stated income, stated assets, the guy with the 600 credit score, the teacher that's buying $1 million house that had no business doing that.
Right.
Now lending guidelines have tightened up so well that banks know what buyers they have, the qualified buyers. You have to verify your income. There isn't no stating your income anymore. And you have to verify your assets as well. Mm-hmm. The second phase of it, I think, which really protected us, is the fact that an appraisal, when you want an appraisal, there's 2 eyes on the appraisal now, appraisers can't speak with mortgage bankers anymore. You used to hear the story of the guy says, hey, I need, $100,000 more for this refinance to work. Things like that. The big mortgage fraud that was involved in a lot of the cases as well. But now buyers and properties, you have 2 eyes on the appraisal. So one is the appraiser, and then one is a third party. Like Bank of America has a company called LandSafe, and LandSafe will independently run their own numbers. And if these 2 numbers don't match, well, then they go get another appraisal on the property, and they take the lowest of those 3.
Wow.
Yeah. So that, I don't think a consumer really understands, really has that knowledge about some of the back end systems and how it's played. Mm-hmm. So now banks know the assets that they're truly holding. The days of inflating properties and all that, it's gone.
Done. Eunice and I just watched The Big Short again last night.
Yeah.
Have you seen that movie?
Yes, I have.
Is it an accurate depiction of the 2008? It's crazy, man. That story is insane. Some of the stuff that went on, it blows my mind.
Yeah, I mean, very complicated things that were on there. And I forget the actual terminology of it, but it was banking that they were betting about performance on portfolios, and actually guys were doing it from the reverse, basically saying it's not going to perform.
Yeah. Credit default swaps.
Yeah, there we go.
They were betting they were going to default.
Yeah.
Like 20-1, man. It's crazy. Oh
Um,
my goodness.
yeah, but so now I think the other staggering number that I really looked at, and I'm going to say it off the top of my head, but I want to say it was 30% of uh, 30% of Americans own their home free and clear. And I think
Wow.
the staggering number that I saw was like somewhere between 45% have at least 50% equity. Do you know what the percentage is that someone has less than 10% equity into their home now?
This
Is
is a percentage of homeowners?
homeowners, yeah, on a national average.
Less than 10%? Oh, shoot. I don't know. I'd guess 20%.
It's about 7%.
Oh, wow. It's
People
that
own,
low.
yeah.
Dang.
And the thing is that what that tells me is that people aren't going anywhere. You know, the problem is a lot of the things, or a lot of the reasons why you have these big, huge defaults and payments is because these guys were doing it on 100% financing, and even some would do 105% financing, right? Banking, because at the time, I mean, appreciation was going through the roof. So their idea was, okay, we'll put you in a 2-year arm, right? The market's the market is flourishing right now. By that time, you'll have more equity into it. You can refinance and then get out of that 2-year arm and go into a more, a 30-year product, because
Mhm.
some of these people needed credit fixing, right? So the 2 years gave them opportunities to fix their credit. But what happened is when the market fell, that was it. You know, there was no equity for them. They were actually in a negative loss position, negative equity
Mhm.
position, if anything.
Wow.
So yeah, it's easy for them to walk away. But if you have 20% equity into your house, or 30 or 40 or 50,
Yeah.
you have options, and you're not
Right.
going to typically tend to walk that property as easy as these other guys did.
Sure. Sure. So is now the time to buy or sell or both, or what? How do you see the current market?
So there's two things that I've looked at. So interest rates are at, I mean, ridiculously low rates. I
So
mean,
low.
50-year lows right now. And I remember 2 months ago, I was telling my agents, get ready, because 3.5, we're about to see it even dip even further. You know, FOMC has even came out and said that they're going to keep rates steady. And in 2021, that we would even see it underneath threes. I just saw 2.875. So we're actually going even lower than that. But the thing is that the number that stands out to me as far as buying and selling is inventory, right?
Mhm.
And so inventory in 2008 was above 12 months in Houston. Right. Right now, for single family residents, Hard released it, I want to say 2 months ago, we're at 3.2%. So last month, I think we were at 3.4. We've never, like, those kinds of numbers, anything underneath 6 months is pretty low inventory, but to be underneath 4 months,
Mhm.
I think is a staggering number. And that's why you're seeing people, how I said that the changing of the landscape of how we view and do things, even real estate, virtual tours, FaceTime tours,
Mhm.
and people are walking in, and the good part is, that only the serious buyers are coming out.
Yeah.
There isn't a guy who's just like, I'm not looking move.
Yeah. If you can get a FaceTime tour, it's like, what do I need to go for unless I'm going to buy?
Yeah, we've even gone down to implementing virtual tours where you can walk in as if you're staying in the property yourself.
Man, that's cool.
And that's why I've always believed, I guess it's a good segue to go into trust. One of the things that I wanted to implement with trust is that I want to bring this core value back into real estate. That true professionals, I mean, not just about houses, but about everything that surrounds it. The mortgage side is probably one of the biggest overlooked processes that a buyer looks at, and also a seller, because if you don't understand what's going on in mortgages from a seller's perspective, and you take a contract and you lock that property up for another 20 days, and you could have had a actual you could have had an actual buyer that's qualified, but because you don't understand that language and what to look for, it could be pretty detrimental to your as far as getting things done.
Definitely, man.
Yeah.
Definitely. So what advice would you have? Like if I'm trying to get into real estate right now and I have, maybe I want to be a realtor, maybe I'm getting my real estate license and I'm trying to branch into it. What advice would you have for somebody who's doing that in this time in order to be a true professional? Like how do you branch into an industry that's so oversaturated, with everybody trying to get their license and do real estate?
I think the first thing is you've got to have a mindset. A lot of these, one of the things I've really been fortunate with is starting to accumulate a lot of developers over my years as a real estate agent. And I've went up against the big guys, the big companies. And the thing is, I've always said this, I don't flinch at anybody. In any big company it is, because they're not me and they don't know what I know. I have, I'm very confident in the ability and what I do and serve that will stand out, amongst a industry that is what I feel is very saturated. What I would tell an agent if they were getting in, or somebody who wants to get in real estate, well, first is probably stop watching Selling Sunset, right?
Come on, man. It's a great show.
It's not happen like that.
That's not how it is everywhere.
Let me, or $1 million listing. And look, here's the thing. Jeez. No one has ever taken me out on my $1 million deal for sushi and lowball me 200,000 price. God. And it magically happens. I'm sorry to tell you, it just hasn't.
Jeez.
I think the first thing you have to do is really set aside savings. I think that's my first thing. Just think of it like you're not going to close anything for 6 months. Have your 6 months saving, right? Understand that it's going to be uncomfortable. The reality is, everybody sees all the deals you're closing, but nobody sees the hard work that behind the scenes of the endless nights, staying up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, the practicing or honing down your craft, constantly trying to perfect it. I think that's something that everybody doesn't see, right? Everybody sees the outcome, just not the journey. And you have to be able to fall in love with that journey. You have to have a passion for it, because I'll tell you, there are nights that I'm very tired, but I know that this is something that I love to do. Helping people is very empowering to me, to take them through this process that is considered one of the most stressful processes in life, and make it easy for them, and for them to find their dream home. I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, there's something that's very empowering when it's gratifying. You see somebody moving on in different stages of their life, and you're privileged enough to be able to take them through it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got some other realtor friends and other business owner friends, and they have a similar perspective where you see people get this payout, right? Like, they got commission on that property, right? And kind of like what you were describing, they don't see that, you've spent years and you've spent all these showings and, you're doing all this work. And once you finally get it, there's all this other work behind the scenes that goes on to actually make that deal happen. And, all they see is, oh, wow, he got that big dollar figure or whatever. But, they didn't see you spent, however many years writing your book or whatever. Right.
I'll give you an example. I studied the $400,000 price point in mortgages, and just to understand, because I knew, there was a time that a lot of my clients would be in that price point, right? And so I actually wrote down everything I wanted to talk to a client if they were buying a $400,000 property, and I rehearsed that in the mirror 20 to 25 times a day to make sure it looked presentable. And that is kind of like the things that, if you're talking about like the things that people don't see, it's the ability to go and learn it first, outline it, practice it, then deliver it,
Yeah. We see the CEOs, the people around these companies, see these people getting on stages, speaking, and everyone's like, man, they're just, that must come naturally to them. They're just really, they're really good at that. It's like, well, it might come naturally to them, but they are prepared. They have prepared,
Yeah. But
man.
I'll tell you what, it's a very rewarding. The sky's the limit. You can make great. You can make a great amount of money doing it, and you have the freedom to do a lot of things. But in the same sense, is that everybody thinks that, oh man, you don't have to clock in, Yeah, but my day starts like 6 o'clock in the morning, and it typically ends around 12.
Right. So what other types of advice would you have for the different areas of real estate? Like maybe I want to be an investor and I want to start like flipping houses, or following the Burr model, or what's your favorite deal type, and what would you recommend if you're branching into investing in real estate? How would you approach it?
Here's the thing with if you're going to go on the investment side, right? This is the common mistake investors make. I have the money. I just need to look at the house. The numbers work. I'm in it, right? But what they don't realize is that you need somebody who understands what buyers are looking for. And when I say that, it's making small little decisions that can affect it tremendously. Because once you're finished with the product, it is very tough to rip it back out and make corrections on there, rather than have somebody on your side saying, hey, this is a good property. This is a very good area. Here's what I think you can do with it. Stay away from X, Y, Z of putting in this house, because I don't think it. I'll give you a perfect example of this. One of investors of mine purchased this house before. It was one of the wholesale deals, right? And we walk into the house, and I notice right away that there is only a single vanity in the bathroom, and there is your standard tub. Because he was so used to doing that in areas, he's out of state, and he's so used to doing it that way, in a market that is super hot, flies off the shelves within 7 days. And he said, hey, this is what we put in there. Well, lo and behold, the feedback was the single vanity, because you have to think about it, as husband and wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend, or partner and whoever. It's very tough to share a single sink.
It's very
much
tough.
Less, it's very tough to do a dual vanity with very much less a single sink.
Yeah.
And there was no stand-up shower, and you're asking for remember this, my biggest tip to investors, if you are going to ask for a certain price per square feet, let's just say you're trying to get 200 price per square feet in the neighborhood that's selling at 200, you should probably look at that exact house and give them the $200 square. I mean, because the blueprint is there for you. That is what a $200 price per square feet home looks like, and that's what we're willing to pay. So that's my advice on that. Work with a professional. I know it's not just to get the commission on the business. It'll save you a headache, because you wouldn't go into court trying to represent yourself. Why would you do it?
I know you've had the opportunity to learn from some pretty cool people in your career. How do you value mentorship? Do you think finding a mentor to really kind of help you through is the way to go?
Absolutely. One of the things that I tell a lot of agents is, don't chase commission, chase the knowledge. It's you putting in your dues. Your learning curve will be so much faster, because you only know what you know. That's the thing, right? But if you're working with somebody who does high volume, that has seen every single deal, or majority of the deals, and how they lay out certain points and things like that, then it just helps you get there much faster.
Mm-hmm. Been following you on social media, Chris. You got a pretty good social media presence. And I'm wondering how you've seen social media change your business. You having fun with it. What's your social media approach?
It's social media. Social media is probably one of your biggest allies and assets that you can have. For me, is one of the unique things about us at the way we at Trust is that we actually do a lot of video marketing, and it's high energy. And there's a method to the madness, right? that video can be shared and we can retarget ads with it. And it's a cool video. It's high energy. I've seen so many videos where you kind of lose because you only have about 10 to 15 seconds to capture the audience, right? So you have to be able to deliver something that they're like, oh, wow, okay, I want to take a look at that, right? Not just your average, the ones I see a lot is, they're standing outside. It's not professionally shot on their iPhone. You can barely hear them. There's wind blowing, and then they're just talking about the property.
Right.
But we use technology. One of the biggest things trust is about is utilizing technology to get out to the consumer first, for them to have the access to it. And same thing with either buying or selling, so it's helped us tremendously. I'm sure you've seen the videos and the outtakes and all that. It gives a different glimpse of who you're working with.
Sure. Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's an awesome tool. I was super hesitant to put myself out there on social media. Did you have any reserves like that? Like, oh man,
of course.
like I'm putting my face out there now. And
of course, one of the biggest things is that even for me, when I look at myself, it's hard to look at myself on camera. I think that's with everyone in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Or when you hear your own voice and you're like, so for me, I sound like Quagmire in my head. And so I'm like, what's wrong with this microphone? And he's like, no, it's not the microphone. You sound like Quagmire. It's like,
so when do you have the most fun in real estate? Like what's the best part, the most fun part of being in real estate for you?
Ah, man, this is going to sound so sappy. There's a moment when buyers realize what they just accomplished and what they receive. And it comes at different points in time. It's not necessarily at the closing table. It's not necessarily at, any specific time, but there's a moment when they look at each other and they're like, oh, wow, this is going to be ours. We did this, that to be a witness to that, it's almost like you're seeing somebody get married, right? It's something cool that you cannot describe. It's just something you see and you're just like in awe. And that's kind of like probably my best moments that are in real estate, helping people like that kind of to see that there's no amount of money. That's priceless. I mean, as cheesy as it sounds, it's priceless.
That's awesome, man. So where are we going? Where are we going the next 6 months, year in the real estate market? What's the future? For those that aren't from Houston, we're located in Houston, Texas. So, not necessarily talking only Houston, but what's your perspective on the real estate market given the situation?
I mean, here's the thing with everything. Time makes it better, right? The stock market, oil and gas, COVID, all these things have an end to it. I think that, and you can mark my words on this, fourth quarter of this year and first quarter of next year, you're going to see it is going to be such a growth in real estate. It's going to be pretty wild to be able to take a look at. Low interest rates, low inventory. There's people who are still building that's out there. People still need houses, I think it gives us a little bit of time as things progress and get better and to answer some of the unknowns that we currently have right now in the market. So for me, it always looks bright. I think it's going to be a very, very bright future.
Well, good.
Yeah.
That's good. Good to hear in this world of doom and gloom we're in these days, Good to hear. So, Chris, it's been fun, man. Where can people find you? Finish off telling everybody a little bit more about Truss, what you're doing, and where to find you.
Yeah, you can
for real estate.
You can look us up, trusttexas.com, our Instagram handle. You can look for me at Trust, and the Trust is spelled TRUSS Chris Phan. And the trust system, it's basically the trust system that's found in the house, and that's what we do. We give support.
It's awesome, man. Cool idea. Love to see what you're doing. I'm happy to see you succeeding, man. You've been a huge blessing to Eunice and I.
Oh, man.
And Eunice and me. And we're pumped, dude. We're pumped. So appreciate you coming on the show, brother.
All right, brother.
You take care.
All right, you too.
See ya.